Today is all about guitar gear for the beginner. This is IkeGuitar. Let's dive right in. So this list is not just for students wanting to learn to play guitar. If you're a parent or a relative buying for a loved one, or maybe you're getting into guitar yourself, these are going to be some great products to buy for your guitar player in your life, or maybe for yourself as you learn the instrument for the first time. And remember guys, if you like these kinds of videos, be sure to comment and subscribe down below. I make videos all the time, but let's get right back to what gear we need as a beginning guitar player. Alright, so the first thing you'll want to look for is, of course, a new guitar. Now, electric guitars, there's so many electric guitars out there and acoustics, but really the electric guitar market is flooded with tons of different instruments for your playing pleasure. And I think for a beginning guitar player just starting out, nothing's going to beat a good old Squier Affinity Telecaster. Now, I have a Squier Affinity Telecaster. Squier is one of the biggest guitar manufacturers, guitar importers in the world here. So many guitars come out of Squier all the time, and so it can be a little overwhelming to get into the Squier world. But for $229, it's a really great balance of playability and affordability with the Squier Affinity Telecaster. I've got one in silver. I'd recommend it for a beginning guitarist. They get the Pal Faro version of a guitar. Pal Faro is just a wood that goes over the neck. If your guitarist really likes the look of maple, yes, you can get by with a maple fretboard, but I recommend for any beginning guitarists, a Pal Faro or a rosewood. It's a great starting wood. It's smooth, it feels great, and it produces a very warm tone. And the best thing about the Squier Affinity Telecasters is that they stay in tune really well. In my opinion, you're not going to get a lot of tuning stability on your instrument for less than $200, which is why I think the Squier Affinity Telecaster is the best way to go for not only tuning stability, but also just general playability. I mean, I play that guitar all the time, even on professional gigs, and it sounds really, really good. Now, if you're an acoustic player, guys, I'm sorry, acoustics are just going to be a little more money as far as buying a guitar is concerned. That's because electric guitars are just a slab of wood with a neck on them. Acoustics take a little bit more time. Acoustics take a little bit more to process and handle because they're hollowed out. And so if you're going to buy an acoustic, I recommend buying a decent one. I think guitars like the Epiphone Hummingbird Pro is a really good starting instrument. And what I like specifically about the Hummingbird Pro, the mahogany back and sides makes a really warm tone. Spruce top, that's pretty standard, but it's also got Fishman electronics. I think Fishman, for budget guitars, they make very good acoustic electric pickups for your acoustic guitar, and I think they're just a solid all-around great pickup that'll make your guitar sound really great in a sound system. Other Epiphone guitars are great, but I wouldn't expect greatness from anything less than $250. So the next piece of equipment you'd have to buy if you're a beginning guitar player, especially if you're an electric player, is going to be a decent amplifier. Now amplifiers, you can just amplifiers are another really big money pit. People have a lot of opinions about amplifiers, especially when you get into, really high-end boutique amp ranges, and we're not talking about that right now. What I recommend for you guys is a decent, solid practice amp. Nothing beats the practice amp game more than a good old Fender Frontman. Now, the Frontman is used in music stores and shops and little tiny studios all around the world to practice with and to play pedals through and all that jazz. It's a really great standard amp just getting started, and for less than $100, it's going to be prime material. Now, I'd recommend a Frontman with a 1x8. And what that simply means is that the cone inside the Frontman is 8 inches. An 8-inch cone just gives you a little bit more low end, gives you a bit more fullness from your instrument. Anything smaller than a 1x8, like a 6-inch cone, isn't really going to help you. Anything bigger than an 8-inch, like a 12-inch, I mean, you can go into 12s, but 12s are just too much bass, okay? So between 8 and 10 inches, what you really want for your first amplifier. And as you grow in your amp game, you're going to learn what kind of cones you really enjoy, but for a great all-around sound, the Fender Frontman is great. You can buy a Fender Frontman on Reverb for about $60, but you're going to pay a buttload in shipping only because the amp is so heavy. So if you have a local music shop that sells Fender Frontman amps, maybe you can find one used, but I wouldn't recommend paying more than, $100 for one of these. You can get them really cheap. I've found Fender Frontmans on Reverb for like $40 to $50, albeit with like $30 shipping, so be aware of that. But Fender Frontman, great starting amp, and then down the road as you get better, you can start buying full-on tube amps. But let me just tell you, as just an aside, the guitar thing is really important to a lot of you guys, but nothing's going to be more important to your sound than a decent amp. So as you get better at guitar, think about getting a better amp over a better guitar. Now don't forget, we have a bunch of accessories we need to buy in order to play guitar properly, so don't forget a great instrument cable. You don't need to go super expensive. Instrument cables are very very inexpensive. You could probably just make one yourself, honestly, but don't get anything fancy. Get a really inexpensive 10-foot, 15-foot, just generic instrument cable. People will like swear to you up and down about, gold tips and like the perfect conductors inside and all this jazz, but honestly, it's minimal. It's not even worth the money or the time to worry into that. Just buy a good old generic instrument cable, tip ring sleeve, okay? It'll plug into your guitar's output jack, it'll go into the amp, it'll sound great. Alright, so next thing you'll want to buy is a decent pack of picks. I've got a pick video all about different guitar picks. You can check it out here. But as far as guitar picks go, once again, it'll be up to you and your feel. But I'd highly recommend some decent Tortex picks from Dunlop. I like the 0.6 millimeters the best. They're the orange picks. They just feel really good in your hand. They're all round. And you can buy 72 picks for about $16, or you can buy a pack of 12 for about $3. So if you have the money to spend on some picks, get a bunch of them because you're going to be losing them starting out and you'll want plenty of picks. But if you'd rather just buy a bunch of different picks or a variety pack to give you guys a feel for what you may enjoy down the road, I'm not super picky about picks, but you're going to want to have a decent pick to play either on the road or at your church or at your local club or during your practice sessions. Alright, so the next item on your list, as a guitar player just starting out, you gotta get a nice guitar strap. Now, guitar straps are kind of weird. Guitar straps come in all shapes and styles and materials. Straps are really important because as you're playing your guitar up on stage, they're going to be digging into your shoulder and your back. So you want proper strap support, really. You can buy, most straps come in like a material called propylene. It's essentially a thermoplastic. It's kind of weaved. The only issue with propylene straps is that they do cut into your shoulder over time. So if you have a really heavy guitar, it is going to get kind of uncomfortable. Now, I enjoy cloth straps. They are going to be a bit more expensive, but a lot of people also enjoy leather straps. The issue with leather straps is that leather straps almost always need breaking in, as opposed to a more synthetic leather where it's already kind of been broken in for you. It's kind of like a baseball mitt. Once you break it in, you're totally fine, but leather straps are also abnormally expensive. They're going to range from like $30 to like $50. I mean, straps are just one of those things in guitar that you can just spend as much money on as you want, and you'll always want more. So I recommend a cloth strap, but if you want a budget strap for really cheap, I recommend the Ernie Ball propylene straps. They're really nice. As long as you're not doing any like massive concerts for like 5 or 6 hours, they'll work just fine, but they may grow weary on your shoulder over time, and as you grow into your guitar, you're going to buy a new strap anyway. And of course, we can't forget a critical guitar tuner. Now, there are a bunch of tuners out there, from stomp box form to clip on the headstock form. I highly recommend the Snark tuners. They're inexpensive, but don't lose them because they can add up quick. But you're going to want to get a couple of those Snark tuners and keep them on you. Get some extra battery because they will go out of battery rather quickly, believe it or not. But the Snark tuners are the best way to keep your guitar in tune. Now, eventually, you'll want to tune by ear or use a pedal to tune. But for now, those Snark clip-on tuners are the best thing since sliced bread. So go pick one up. So the last thing I recommend beginning guitarists buy for themselves is going to be a metronome. I know, it's really boring, but metronomes are really great, especially for the beginning guitarist. They really help you keep time really well. Now, there are a couple kinds of metronomes. There are actual digital metronomes, and there are quartz metronomes. And quartz metronomes are like this one from Seiko. I like quartz metronomes because they're a bit more meaty. They're not just pressing buttons. You can hear the clicking. Like, there's a lot more tangible feedback with a quartz metronome. I keep them with me at all times. I'll run off a 9-volt battery. A lot of the digital metronomes, however, will run off a watch battery, which is really nice if you like watch batteries instead of 9 volts. But I really like a good old Seiko quartz metronome. These are going to be a little bit more expensive. You can't buy a cheap metronome. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but you're going to spend about $15 on a decent metronome, but they're well worth the money. I have 2 quartz metronomes, both from Seiko. They've done me a lot of good. I keep one here at my desk for when I play guitar, and I have one in my practice station for when I practice. They're just really nice, really consistent, and they're worth the money. So spend some extra dough and buy a decent quartz metronome. Guys, thank you so much for watching my video on things you need to buy if you're a beginning guitarist. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. I make all kinds of videos all the time. You're not going to want to miss a single episode. And if you guys have any questions about any of the gear that I'm giving you guys, please let me know in the comments below. I will answer your comments the best that I can for as long as I can. So please let me know down below if you have any questions about guitars or gear or whatever. And if you guys aren't sure what level of a guitar player you guys are, check out my video about how to determine what level you are down in the description below. It'll give you guys a great framework to begin your practice and hopefully give you guys some great tips on where to go as far as your musical journey is concerned. Guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time on IkeGuitar.